Karan Khero from Sindhi University campus Sakana, batch 2K19, roll number 43. Today my topic is Pakistani study topics. Two national theory, Aligarh movement, natural resources of Pakistan, Lahore restoration, ideology of Pakistan, the India-Pakistan War of 1965. Two nations theory. The two nations theory was a concept that envisioned a separate state for the Muslims in the subcontinent. From looking into history, it clearly shows that after the advent of Islam in the subcontinent, Muslim nationalists evolved as Muslims and Hindus could not coexist without nationalism rearing its head. The Bhakti movement, Janali, and other similar ideologies which tried to absorb Islam into Hinduism permitted Muslim scholars to attempt to preserve the purity of Islam after the British occupation of the subcontinent, the domination by Hindus, backwardness of Muslims, and the threat of their survival coupled with sporadic clashes between Hindus and Muslims lead to the two nations theory. The theory describes Muslims as a nation with different culture, heritage, values, and civilizations. The Congress Party wanted India to remain united as a scholar state with equality for followers of the regions, but the two nation theory resulted in the partition of British India and the emergence of two separate nations, Pakistan and India. After more 70 years, the Contention Citizenship Amendment Act was passed in the India Parliament later last year, which triggered widespread protest all over the country. The bill was passed to provide a pathway the citizenship for refugees who came to India from Bangladesh, Pakistan, and Afghanistan with one specific caveat: these refugees cannot be Muslims. The approval of the law, widely interpreted by the more than 200 million Indian Muslims as anti-Muslims, proved beyond and doubt that the RSS ideals of Hindu and becoming a reality in India with the objective of suppressing and worse evicting Muslims from India. It clearly depicted the far side of Muhammad Ali Jinnah when he stated, when you the Congress talk of democracy, you are thoroughly dominated over the Muslims, a totally different nation, different in culture, different in everything. You self are working for Hindus, nationalism, and Hindu Raj. The current station of India, especially the react anti-Muslims in Delhi, proved that he steps taken by Jinnah which were born out of the two nations theory were extremely asserted. The BJP government under the leadership of Narendra Modi is closely worked with the Hindu extremists to transform India to complete Hindu Rashtra, a Hindu state. This shows that they are trying to dismantle secular India and transform it into the entity based on a Hindutva date believes the entire Indian subcontinent is the homeland for only Hindus. Since 2K40 2K14 under the BJP government, several government movements have started to oppose the Muslim committee. A cow protection movement has led to several incidents to lynching of Muslims for lasting cause. The Babri Masjid voted in favor of Hindus further emboldened the Hindu pantheistic and mosque were ransacked in Delhi by Hindu mobs in the recent violence. The behavior of Hindu rotators could be a hint at their future plans for a fundamentalist Hindu Raj. But the issue in this design is what will they do after the Muslims are dealt with, who are 14% of the total population of India. If they will continue their fascist movement, who is going to be their next target? If we look the history, then after Muslims, the next target of this fascism could be the Sikh community. The Sikh community has been victim to programs from Hindu fanatics in the past. If this madness continues, it could eliminating the minorities from the country will result in the reign of secular India. As the Hindutva believes in the supremacy of Hindus and there are no equal rights for minorities, it gives room to Hindu fanatics to kill others. The freedom given to the fanatics in India is leading toward the lose of its integrity. This could only result in radicalization in other areas, especially in the disputed regions of Kashmir. If these activities of the nationalist Indian government are not stopped, it could lead to not only more internal unrest but border conflict with Pakistan too. The RSS police are not only a risk for secure India but also a great threat for the peace of South Asia. Aligarh movement. After 1857, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan started a movement in order to give respectable position to Muslim in society as they had in past. This movement is known as the Aligarh movement. The main focus of the Aligarh movement was loyalty to British government, modern Western education for the Muslims to compete with the Hindus, to keep away the Muslim from politics. Sir Syed realized that the miserable and deplorable condition of Muslims was due to the lack of modern education. Therefore, he commenced an educational program in order to realize that this miserable and deplorable condition of Muslims was due to the lack of modern education. Therefore, to commence an educational program in order to uplift the deprived and disappointed Muslims who had lost their past glory. He took concrete steps for his education plan. Thus, in 1859, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan set up a school for Muslims in Moradabad, where English, Persian, Islamiyat, Arabic, Urdu were compulsory subjects in 1862. Sir Syed was transferred from Moradabad to Ghazipur, where he established another school for Muslims, which was known as Madrasa Ghazipur. Here also he English, Arabic, Persian, Urdu and Islamiyat were compulsory subjects. In 1864, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan laid the foundation of the scientific society at Ghazipur. The purpose of this society was to translate the English books into Urdu language. But later on in 1866, after his transfer to Aligarh, the main office of scientific society was also transferred to Aligarh in 1866. The scientific society issues a journal named as Aligarh Institute Gazette. This journal was published both in Urdu and English language. The aim of this journal was to wash away the misconnection between Muslims and British government and brought them close to each other. In order to closely watch the education system of England, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan accompanied his son Syed Mehmud visit England in 1869 and stayed there for 17 months studying English educational institution like Oxford and Cambridge University. Later, after his return to India, he set up a committee known as Committee Striving for Educational Progress of Muslims. This committee for the establishment of a Muslim college in Sir Syed was selected the secretary of the both committees. For the purpose, Sir Syed traveled toward across the country and collected funds for the establishment of college. The committee decided first for the forming of school as a model to the peoples and later to found the college. Hence, in 1875, Sir Syed established Muhammad Main Anglo of college, which was inaugurated by Lord Lytton. The main characteristic of this college was that it offered both Western and Eastern education. Later on, this college was rise to the level of university after the death of Sir Syed in 1920. In 1886, Sir Syed set up an organization which is known as Mohammedan Educational Conference, which presented a 12-point program in Western and religious education in English and other language. Its aim was to convey the message of education to the Muslim message. The conference held its sessions at different towns of the country to know about the educational problems and then tried to solve them. The conference in its meeting discussed the modern technology for the development and improvement of the standard of the education. In 1866, Sir Syed established British India Association and Aligarh. The main purpose of this organization was to express the grievances and point of view of Indians to the British Parliament. He was wrote loyal Moments of India, in which the recorded a detailed account of the loyal service of the Muslims, which they rendered to the British rules in 1870. Sir said after his return from England set up an organization known as Anjuman Tarki Musliman Hind in order to impart modern education to the Muslims of India. Sir Syed wrote the philosophical commentary on Bible named as Tabain al-Kalam. In the commentary, Sir Syed draw out the similarities found between Islam and Christianity. He also wrote an essay on the life of Muhammad, on the response to life of Muhammad, written by William Ware, in which he had criticized the Holy Prophet. Sir Syed also wrote Anjuman Tariki Urdu for the protection of Urdu. Sir Syed published another influential emergence named as Tahzeeb al-Akhlaq, in which he discussed the Muslim society by critiquing the conservative way to living and emphasized on the new modern way of the life. Thus, Sir Syed Muhammad died his best through the Aligarh movement for the Muslims cause and took the support of British by showing loyalty to them and also aloof the Muslims from the Indian National Congress. National resource of Pakistan. Pakistan is blessed with wasteland, natural gas reserves, petroleum, extensive coal, iron ore, copper, salt, limestone, and gold. Besides other nature resources, many of them heteros and resources. In fact, according to one survey, Pakistan has the second largest salt mine, second largest coal reserves, 55th largest gold mine, 7th largest copper mines. The country in the 11th largest wheat producer, 12th largest rice producer, and 7th country of the world with nuclear power. Coal. The annual coal production of Pakistan is 32.2 million tons. Coal is used in power generation. It is basically used as fuel. It is mostly found in Sindh, Tharak Park, Manara, Balochistan, Nagari, March, Punjab, and Church and Nowshera. Natural gas. Natural. It is itself a source of energy and fuel, used a source of power generation. It is found in Sui, Mari, Utah, Khairpur, Jacobad, etc. Now some new discoveries are also found. Iron ore. Iron ore is used for industry, especially steel industry. Its deposits are found in Chitral, Chagai, Kotte, Kuram, Agentry, Modern, Hazara, Mianwali, Kalabag and DG Khan. Chromite is used in preparing other metals, leather tanning, making of steel products, armament and stainless steel. Found in Muslims Bagh, Shagai, Malakand, Mamand, Waziristan, Fort Setland, Sandaman, etc. Sulfur, Epsom oil, argument. It is the basic element for atomic power, indispensably for the defense. It is deposited or in DG Khan, Hazara and Kohat. Pakistan is blessed with considerable mineral resources. Some of them are explored, but much remains to be done for the search for more. Lahore Resolution. The Lahore Resolution, commonly known as the Pakistan Resolution, was a formal political statement adopted by the Muslim League at the occasion of its three-day general session on 22-24 March 1940. That called for greater Muslim autonomy in British India. This has been largely accepted as a demand for a separate Muslim state. Pakistan. The resolution was presented by A.K. Fazl Haq. From March 22 to March 24, 1914, the All India Muslims League held its annual session at Minto Park, Lahore. This session proved to be historical. The session was held between 22 March and 24 March 1940 at Minto Park, now Iqbal Park, Lahore. The welcome address was made by Nawab Shah Nawaz Memdod in his search journal recounted in contemporary situation, stating that the problem of India was no more of an intercommunal nature, but manifestly and international. He caused the Congress and the nationalist Muslims and exposed the two nations theory and the reasons for the demand for a separate Muslim homelands. According to Stanley Walpole, this was the moment when Jinnah, the former ambassador of Hindu Muslims unity, totally transferred himself into Pakistan's great leader. On the first day of the session, Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah narrated the events of the last few months in a extempore speech, he presented his own version of the Muslim faith and international one the most must be read as such. To him, the difference between Hindus and the Muslims were so great and so short that their union under one country government was full of risks. They belonged to two separate and distinct nations, and therefore the only chance one was to allow them to have separate states in the world of Kaiser. Hindus and Muslims belong to different religions, philosophies, social customs, and entertainment. They neither enter their concepts on life and of life are different. It is quite clear that Hindus and Muslims divide their impression from different sources of history. They have different episodes, different heroes, and different episodes. Very often, a hero of one is together to such nations under a single state. One as a numeral minority and the other as a majority must lead to growing disconnect, discontent, and final distribution of any fabric that many may be so blood, blood up for the government of such a state. Hindus and the Muslims belong to different religions, philosophies, social customs, and literature. They neither intermarried nor interdine, and indeed they belong to different civilizations that are based mainly on convergent ideas and conception. Their concepts on life and of life are different. It is quite clear that Hindus and Muslims drive their impression of different sources of history. They have different heroes and different episodes. Very often, heroes are together to such nations and other single state. One is numerical military and the other as a majority must lead to growing discontent and final distribution of any fabric that may be to split up for government of such a state. He further said, Muslims are a nation according to any definitions of nation. We wish our peoples to develop to the fullest separate cultural, economic, social, and political life in a way that we think best and in consonance with our own ideals and according to the genius of our people. We are a nation of 100 million, and what is more, we are a nation with our distinct culture and civilization, language and literature, art and architecture, legal laws and moral codes, customs and calendar, history and tradition, aptitudes and ambitions. In short, as Muslims, we have our own distinctive outlook on life. If the British had read the writing on the wall in the British Pakistan could have come into existence 2 years earlier without bloodshed. With his charismatic personal charism turned, turned the dream of a separate homeland into reality on 14th of August 1947. Ideology of Pakistan. He founding father of Pakistan, M.A. Jinnah ideology for the nation was based on unity, faith, discipline. The meaning of this Ireland is the rule of law, which means social justice for all citizens. Unfortunately, after 70 years, Pakistan is home to intolerance and religious violence and extremes, which is damning the image of our country in the world. Pakistan is being run by criminal mafias. State institutions have collapsed and rampant corruption is out of control. This is the result of not following Qaisism's ideologies for 70 years. Every military journal, polit- journal and politics has been ignoring his guiding principles. Every leader that came created a personalized ideology to run Pakistan. General Ziaul Haq used all his power to make Pakistan a terrorist state. General Ziaul Haq also tried and used all means to convert Pakistan army into and army of Pakistan and destroyed the peaceful fabric of our society. The army and civilian paid a very heavy price for this ideology. The non-state militant actors created by him are now so powerful that it is not possible to eliminate them. To put the country in the right direction, the only solution is to follow and implement the guiding principles of Qaisism and adopt his ideology for Pakistan, and that is what's going to make his country and a modern progressive Muslim welfare state. The India-Pakistan War of 1965. The 1965 war between India and Pakistan was the second conflict between the two countries over the state of Jammu and Kashmir. The clash did not resolve this dispute, but it did inject the United States and the Soviet Union in ways that would have important implications for subsequent superpower involvement in the region. Petrol works in the high fast sector of Kashmir regions. The dispute over this region organized in the process of decolonization in South Asia. When the British colony of India ended its independence in 1947, it was partitioned into two separate entities, the secular nation of India and the traditionally Muslim nation of Pakistan. Pakistan was composed of two non-contiguous regions, East Pakistan and West Pakistan, separated by India territory. The state of Jammu and Kashmir, which had a predominantly Muslim population but a Hindu leader, shared borders with both India and West Pakistan. The argument over which nation would incorporate the state led to the first India-Pakistan War in 1974, 1947, 1948 and ended with unmediated Jammu and Kashmir, also known as Indian Kashmir or just Kashmir, joined the Republic of India, but the Pakistani government continued to believe that the majority Muslim state rightfully belonged to Pakistan. Conflict resumed again in early 1965 when Pakistani and Indian forces clashed over disputed territory along the border between the two nations. Hostilities intensified late August when the Pakistani army attempted to take Kashmir by force. The attempt to seize the state was unsuccessful, and the Second India-Pakistan War reached a stalemate. But this time, the international politics of the Cold War attacked the nature of the conflict. The eh, United States had a story of ambivalent relations with India. During the 1950, U.S. Officials regards Indian leadership with some caution due to India's involvement in the non-aligned movement. Particular this prominent rules at the Bangalore Conference of 1955. The United States hoped to maintain a religion balance of power, which meant not allowing India to influence the political development of other states. However, a 1962 border conflict between India and China ended with a decisive Chinese victory, which moved the United States and the United Kingdom to provide the military supplies to the Indian Army after the clash with China. It also turned to the Soviet Union for assistance, which places some strains on U.S.-Indian relations. However, the United States also provided India with considerable development assistance throughout the 1960s and 1970s. After Pakistani troops invaded Kashmir, India moved quickly to internationalize the religion dispute. It asked the United Nations to reprise its role in the First India-Pakistan War and the current conflict. The Security Council passed Resolution 211 on September 20 calling for an end to the fighting and negotiations on the support in UN decision by cutting for arms supplies to both belligerents. There's been affected both belligerents, but Pakistan felt the effect more keenly since it had a much weaker military in comparison to India. The UN resolution and had a much weaker military in comparison to India. The UN resolution and the healthing of arms cells and had an immediate impact. India accepted the treaty on September 21 and Pakistan on September 22. The case paper also did not resolve the state status of Kashmir, and both sides accepted the Soviet Union as a third party. Mediator negotiations and Tashkent continued in June 1966 with both sides given up treasure claims with withdrawing their armies from the disputed territories. Nevertheless, although the Tashkent agreement achieved its short-term aims, consequently in South Asia would return a few years later. The end. Thank you.